Hello friends, welcome to CivilPrep. I am Krishna. So this is a special session on discussion of question and answers for paper 1, section B. That is the part of human geography. Okay. So guys, I have seen that this year's paper was not very much difficult. It was not also very much we can say navy, but it was consisting a mixture of all the parts here. But yes, one thing is that I would like to confirm here, that the paper was very much we can say attemptable. The questions were like that they do not need any uh, extra effort, that you have understood things and you can write this paper very easily. So let's start the discussion. The first question here. So why did the welfare approach? The question is, why did the welfare approach in human geography emerge as a significant perspective in 1970s? Okay, so we are talking about the emergence of welfare geography. So I have in my previous parts, I have already discussed this, that with the cone diagram, cone and popper, we have discussed here that there was areal differentiation during 1930s to 1950s. Then after this, there was quantitative revolution. After quantitative revolution, there were three major paradigms which were seen in the geography. So here the first paradigm was behavioral. Second was radical. And third was humanist. Okay, so here we will see that out of the radical, there were two branches. First was Marxist, and second was the welfare or welfareism. Okay, so here we see that the welfareism is one of the branch which has come out of the radical approach. Now here we'll be seeing that radical approach was one of the approach which did not believe in the government and the government efforts, and it majorly required the overthrow of the government and the resource which have to be, the structural issues were there and the resource have to be managed by the people themselves. Okay, so in this part we see that this was basically seen as a part of social relevance movement. This was a part of the social relevance movement, out of which the radical, out of it, the Marxist and the welfareism or the welfare approach, it has come out. So this is one of the part where we see that this has actually taken place in 1970s. Okay, so through this diagram, through this cone and popper diagram, okay, where we are actually specifying the paradigm shift. We are able to explain that how there is a paradigm shift has taken place from the quantitative revolution to a multi-paradigm stage. So this was a monoparadigm, and this particular social relevance movement, it resulted into the multi-paradigmic stage. Multi-paradigmic stage. Okay, so here through this diagram we will be able to explain what have been asked in the question, that the perspective was required, why it was required, why the welfareism was required. Okay, so here the question is why. First thing was the quantitative revolution, it did not address the spatial equality. Okay, second thing we will be seeing that the humans and their studies, it was majorly neglected. So this neglection of the human beings and their studies, this was a major setback in the quantitative revolution time period. Second thing we'll be seeing here, the people, they were not able to form laws, or actually the laws and models which were made in geography. It were too much, which was not required. Okay, so for every model, there is a theory, and everyone was trying to make it more universal. And there were too much of models, and they were rejected in most of their lifetime period. Instead of people, we can use it geographers. Third thing, we'll be seeing that there was prevalence of social, economic, political inequality, which was not addressed by the quantitative revolution. Okay, so this was one of the other aspect here. And here the quantitative revolution was not actually looking at the things which people were actually requiring at that point of time. That is how these things can be provided to the people. So here, the welfareism, it brought a solution by belief in government. For example, D.M. Smith, who advocated the responsibility of government in provisioning of the facilities to the poor, to the not the poor or to the required section. And C at equality. So this was the major part which was seen here as a part of the welfareism. So in the part of conclusion, we can also refer to the same thing, that this welfareism or this welfare aspect, this also went beyond a particular part here, and but it was not able to give the solution to all the things. And here, because of these conditions, it was merged with the critical revolution, or we can say the cultural geography. Okay, so this is the first question which we can see here for the welfare approach in human geography. Now, second question here, what are the key environmental and economic challenges linked to the extraction and processing of critical minerals? Now, this is a question which is from the perspective of the economic geography. Now, this question, this is, we can say that it is quite, okay, we can say that this question is very much, we can say it was probable, because in the contemporary time, when we are looking at the critical minerals, what are critical minerals? Which are important for the development of, we can say, the new technological batteries, semiconductors, okay, which are able to comprehend with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, or smart systems. So these critical minerals, if we look at them, critical minerals, okay, they are particularly a part of the resource. Okay, here we can also include lithium. Okay, resource if we look at, we have copper, cobalt, lithium, and like this there are total 21 minerals here which have been identified by Government of India. Okay, and recently we see that there was a ban imposed by the Government of India to export any of the critical mineral. Okay, so this ban imposition was done in the year of 2024. So this was a huge step. Actually, what is happening? We are importing almost 100% of critical minerals, not 100%, but yes, more than 90% of critical minerals in the contemporary time from the different regions of the world, like lithium, okay, then copper, cobalt, etc. Now, when we look at the environmental and economic challenges, when we look at the challenges here from the environmental and economic perspective for the extraction and processing. Extraction and processing. Okay, so when we look at the perspective here, that is number one from the environmental part. Okay, so here these minerals, they cause degradation due to mining activities. For example, it is resulting into the acidification, deforestation. It is also resulting into the biodiversity loss. Number three, various chemicals, majorly acids, are used for their extraction. Okay, so these things we see that they are majorly present as a part of the environmental degradation here. When we look at them from the economic perspective, number one, as they are majorly classified as the critical minerals by over the world, so they have become more costly because majority of the critical minerals, it is taken up by China, USA, Australia. Okay, India is also into the trading here, that India is also trying to acquire this all these critical minerals. Now, what we look at here from this perspective, that these critical minerals are basically used for the development of batteries in the contemporary time. Okay, so batteries, they have a particular life from 7 to 8 years. Okay, I am taking a maximum average here. So we see that the environmental degradation and the economic, we can say, benefit which has been taken up here, when we take out the cost effectiveness between this part, the return on investment, it is coming quite low here. Okay, because the environmental degradation is quite high as per the usage of these critical minerals. So therefore we see that they are becoming quite costly. Third thing we see here, they are also becoming one of the challenge in terms of balance of payment. Okay, so after the oil, now we'll see that these critical minerals, they are identified as the new oil. So they are again being taken up as a challenge for the balance of payment, because every year we are importing a huge amount of the critical minerals. Not only we, any country, they are importing these critical minerals, which is becoming a burden for the balance of payment. Okay. Fourth thing will be seeing that there is a geopolitical issue also or geo-economic issue. From the geo-economic issue like Quad, okay, or BRICS, G5 or G7, we can say it in the contemporary time, G20, all of these, we can say organizations or groups, they are trying to acquire, okay, these critical minerals due to which there is a very high grouping. And issues are being resurfaced. So by this aspect, we can see here that these critical minerals, they are becoming one of the challenges in the contemporary time, not only from the environmental perspective, but also from the economic perspective. So in the conclusion, we can take it up here as the critical minerals are essential for sustainable development. But only when their extraction and processing is done from the ecocentric approach. To achieve sustainable energy security. So here we can conclude this answer by this particular conclusion here. So guys, this is the second question where we are looking at the environmental and economic challenges linked to the extraction and processing of the critical minerals here in this condition. Okay. Now, we can also talk here about the technological issues. Like the major countries excluding China, the major country like China only have right now the technology for the extraction. Though the Chinese technology, it is also environmental degrading, okay, but it is used in the contemporary time so that an edge over these critical minerals can be sought here. Okay, now moving to the next question. The pull factors in internal migration are often based on the perceptions rather than reality. Okay, now this question, when we see here, this question is very much, I can say, is seen from the perspective of what things are being taken up in the contemporary time. Like, for example, why the people are migrating in different regions of the world or India, we can say. Internal migration will be seeing that there are interstate, intrastate, interdistrict, and intra-district. So these are the certain type of migration which is being seen in the contemporary time. Now this migration, they can be explained from the perspective of the distance decay principle, which we also call it as the gravity model. Okay, so this distance decay principle, it was based on the Newtonian concept. Then we can see here the migration which is being seen from the push and pull factor. So push and pull factor, this is seen from the perspective of Ravenstein. Sorry, this was Lee's perspective. Okay, this was Lee's perspective. Okay, so here we see that the pull factor, where we see it as a part of the Lee's part here. So what it is trying to explain here, that it is based on perception. So perception, if we look at from people, So it is very subjective. Okay, this is a very subjective thing here, where we see that the mental map, which is created by the people for the internal migration. So this gives an essence that why people should migrate. So they show a picture. This picture, it consists of numerous things. For example, number one, better employment. Number two, better standard of living. Number three, better quality of life. Number four, there will be better wages. Number five, better equality. Okay, and we can say here that we can also add the better public facilities. So these are certain things which are being created as a part of a mental map here. But what we see here that this is a part of a perception. But what happens in reality, it is quite different here. In terms of reality, we see that if employment is better, then better skill is required. If wages are good, inflation is high. Okay, I'm moving to the next page. Number three, if public facilities are good, there is more tax deduction. Number four, here we can see that better standard of living, better quality of life, better wages, better equality. Okay, so if equality is high, so there is more state intervention. To look at the if the equality is prevalent, it is high or not. So these are certain things which we can see, which is actually being taking place as a part of the reality. So there are a lot of other things also which we see from this perspective. Okay, so lot of things we see here that it can be interlinked here. For example, if you are looking at the employment part, okay, or standard of living, equality, so this can be connected to marks. Okay, better wages and better equality, public facilities, it can be connected with welfareism. Okay, standard of living and quality of life, they are a perception in it also. Okay, and better employment aspect here. So we see here that basically these perception which is showing a better picture. This is basically done through the social capital. Who are the people who are living in those particular regions or areas where the migration has taken place, or the migrants? So they are providing this perception or this better picture of the grass is greener on the other side. But in reality, all things cannot be same here. Okay, so these are some things which we can see here that is actually happening here. In certain areas, we see that there is also other issues, like number one, quality of food. Okay, number two, uh, quality of food, then air and water quality, number three, diffusion of culture. Okay, so these are certain things which we can see in the other issues part, which are also part of the reality. Okay, so these are certain aspects of reality where the quality or the standard of living is high. Okay, we can admit it, but it also comes at certain cost here. So we need to see that how this migration is actually taking place. What for what reason there should be a migration should be done here. So taking those aspects into consideration, the people should look into the reality picture, which can be built upon the perceptions, models, theories, and thoughts. And on the basis of that, they have to take the decision that the factors are well enough for the migration to take place, or it is just a kind of a picture being set by certain people. Okay, so this we can take up here as a part of this answer. Okay, next question here we have the regional imbalances. Regional imbalances are the product of in situ and ex situ factors elucidated with examples. Now, this year I am saying that the questions are more on the part of uh, it is more on the part of looking at how the development of perception is being done here. Okay, so when we are looking at the regional imbalances, we are looking at certain things where there is a region which is developed and there is another region which is underdeveloped. Okay, so this thing can be here. This thing it can be explained with the help of uh, the world system theory by Wallerstein. Okay, second thing we can use here, uh, the crystallars, central place theory, basically for the settlement purpose. Okay, world system theory, it is basically for the economic development at the world level. Then third thing we can see here, we can also take here certain aspect here from the polarization. Okay, polarization and no spread effect or spillover effect. This can be taken up from the growth pull theory. Of Ferox. Okay, from the part of the regional imbalances, we can also take the resource curves for the availability of resources or resource imbalance. Okay, the resource curves, this can also be taken up in this aspect here. Then other aspect, what we can take up here, number 5, that is Human Development Index, that is the sense approach in terms of education, health, and economic factor here. So these things basically they define the aspect of regional imbalances which has been taken up in particular region. So this can be taken up by the either the state SDI or the country-wise SDI. We can also see it from the perspective of the factors like the religion, Okay, then language. Okay, then structure. Under structure, we can take the political, economic, and social. So these are the part of the radicalism, also imbibing certain part of Marxism. So in these things, we can identify certain factors which are the in situ factors and certain factors which are the ex situ factors. I will be taking I for the in situ factors and I'll be taking E for the ex situ factors here. Okay, for example, the world system theory here, this is an ex situ factor where the capitalist or the countries which are developed countries, they are taking a control over the resources and the development which is being done over the world. Okay, under the part of settlement also, this is an ex situ factor where the various factors which are not taking place as per the part of the we can say the regional aspect, that is the development is taking place as it has to be taken place. So not a lot of things can be done here for the part of the settlement aspect also here. Then polarization, we see here that the polarization, it is also part of the in situ factor where the development of certain industry will take place and on the basis of which the ancillary industry will be developed and the regional imbalances will be created by the effect of polarization. Resource curves will be saying that this is also an in situ factor here. Okay, so under this we'll be seeing that how a resource in a certain region, it is acting as a part of the resource imbalance. SDI, it is also part of a in situ factor. Okay, religion, in situ factor. Language, in situ factor. And the political, economic, and social structure which is prevailing in those particular regions, this is basically part of also an in situ factor. So majorly we see that when I talk about the world system theory, I can also talk about the certain things like imperialism, colonization, okay, which are part of the ex situ factors here. Okay, colonization, imperialism, capitalism. This is also part of the ex situ factor. Okay, so here we can see that we can take up these regional imbalances which are being seen from the various perspective, and here we can identify them, that what are the external factors and what are the internal factors which are resulting into the development of such a the regional imbalances in a particular region. So guys, this is the answer for this question. We can give certain examples for this aspect here. So if you have any doubts, you can ask or you can comment below. Okay, so next question here we have, why is systems analysis important in urban planning and what are its limitations? Now, when we talk about the systems analysis, here we see that it is developed by Barry and Shorley. Okay, it was basically brought into the geographical studies. During the quantitative revolution. Okay, so here the system analysis, it was majorly also applied as a part of the urban planning. Now we need to see here that what is the system and what are its limitations. Now, for example, this is an urban system. So here we can look at the various components of the urban system. For example, the settlement, then we have market, then we have we can say the waste management, then we have energy, We have certain industries. Okay, market we can also provide here CBD. Okay, industries, then we have public facilities. In the urban system, we also have the presence of slums. Okay, and we can also add here in the contemporary time, the artificial intelligence and smart system. Okay, so here we see that there are certain outputs are also seen in this part of the system in terms of the settlement, which is seen, the settlement, it is explained by the Cristello. Okay, so Cristello, he has central place theory here. When we look at the market, okay, so for the part of market, it has been very well explained by the Weber in the part of the theory of industrial location. Okay, theory of industrial location. We have explained it quite well here. For the waste management, we'll be seeing that under the environmentalism, we have various laws in the contemporary time for the disposal of waste. For example, we can see in the part of India, we have certain guidelines for the management of plastic, then solid, then biological, then e-waste. So we have various guidelines for the management of waste here. When we look at the part of the energy, we are looking for the solar energy in the contemporary time, okay, which is based on as the part of a rooftop energy. Okay, then here we can see the industries. So industries, they are basically for the part of the as a part of the raw materials and market. Okay, then public facilities will be looking at, for example, hospital, roads, then water, sanitation, etc. So these are certain public facilities which are being provided by the government. So this is taken up from the part of the welfareism and administration. Okay, slums will be seeing that this is majorly being seen from the migration. Okay, due to migration, we'll be seeing that the slums are being formed and slums are increasing also. This is resulting into the certain issues with respect to the crimes. Okay, and it is also resulting into the overburdening of system. Okay, AI and smart system, these are being used in the form of GIS, then chorology, so that the system can be better managed. Now, in this part, we will see that there is certain aspect with respect to the positive feedback mechanism, and there is certain aspect with respect to the negative feedback mechanism. For example, the central place theory, we will see that it is part of the positive feedback mechanism. Okay, Weber or industrial location. If we see the rise of the industries or market, we will see that it is also part of a positive feedback. Environmental laws, if the waste is managed properly, this will result into the if it is well managed. So this will be the negative feedback mechanism. The solar rooftop, it will result into the decline of the electricity produced from the fossil fuels. So negative feedback. Then raw materials and the market. If the raw materials and market is well managed, so this will result into the growth of market, which will act as a positive feedback. Hospital, road, water, sanitation, if they are worked properly, they will be having a positive feedback mechanism. Migration, this is basically have a negative feedback mechanism here. GIS chorology for the better management, it is also having a positive feedback mechanism. So we see here that there are certain inputs for the system which is resulting into the certain aspects with respect to the positive and negative feedback mechanism, and which is actually which is reflected over the growth of the city. So this thing we can see here, that this is one of the system, a part of system analysis, important in urban planning. And if you look at the limitations, so these things where we see that there are negative feedback mechanisms, these are the limitations of the system, that it is not able to understand the complete variables and components, which can be used in a very well manner for the better working of the system. So guys, this is one of the question which we can see here, which is used for the answer for this question. Okay.